Hello, Brontë-saurs and Eyre-Heads. Coming up on episode 15 of Sundays with Jane Eyre, we'll be talking about Volume 2, Chapter 6, or Chapter 21 of the novel, and our co-hosts will be the Ghoul Guides, Dr. Nixon and Mary Going. Our story so far in around 2 minutes. Young Jane has survived an abusive childhood at the hands of the Reed family and the Lowood school, where she was sent for being too rebellious. Her best friend at the school, the saintly Helen Burns, dies at a very young age. When she turns 18, Jane is hired to be a governess at Thornfield to educate Mr. Rochester's ward, Adele. Jane is disappointed the house is not haunted, but she does hear a strange laugh coming from the attic. But the housekeeper, Mrs. Fairfax, assures her it is just the servant, Grace Poole. Jane meets Mr. Rochester. He falls off his horse. He is fascinated by her watercolor paintings, and they begin to have intimate conversations about their inner lives. Rochester reveals to Jane the story of his involvement with Adele's mother. One night, a mysterious fire breaks out in his bedroom. Jane rescues him by dousing the fire and Rochester in water. They hold hands in his bedroom. The next day, Jane thinks Grace Poole tried to murder him and can't understand why Rochester allows her to be at Thornfield. Friends of Rochester then come to visit Thornfield for an extended holiday, including Blanche Ingram, whom everyone believes is going to marry Rochester. Jane continues her inner battle over her love for Rochester, finally admitting it, but also trying to quell her feelings as she watches him interact with the insufferable Blanche. The mysterious Mr. Mason arrives from the West Indies, and an old Romany woman arrives to tell the ladies' fortunes. Jane hears her fortune, but turns out that it was Rochester in disguise as the old woman. What? During the night, Jane is awakened by a cry in the attic, then someone calling for help. Rochester comes for her, brings her to the attic, and there she finds Mason lying bloody in his bed. Jane assumes that Grace Poole has tried to murder him. She helps Rochester attend to Mason, then they get him out of the house before anyone else wakes up. Rochester and Jane sit in the garden and talk. In Volume 2, Chapter 6, Jane is summoned back to her childhood home, Gateshead, by her dying Aunt Reed for a deathbed confession. You don't want to miss the next exciting episode of Sundays with Jane Eyre from the Rosenbach.